Welcome everyone to Caleb Watches Movies, the channel where I, Caleb, randomly select from one of the many movies that I own and I watch and review them for you, except for days like today where I take a certain film genre or characters from a certain film and I rank the crap out of them. And there's a big blockbuster movie set to be released very soon called Thor: Love and Thunder, and I was thinking, you know, I haven't done a ranking video in a very long time, and looking at my schedules, like, I don't have any ranking videos scheduled until the very end of the year when I do my best of and worst of lists. But Marvel is a very big franchise that is not slowing down at any point, so I'm thinking, what's a list that I can generate from this massive cinematic universe? Well, you know what, let's talk about all the villains of the Marvel MCU. Because the villain of Thor: Love and Thunder, Gore the God Killer, played by Christian Bale, I hear is getting a lot of great reviews, and it's Christian Bale. He's a fantastic actor. He's one of my favorite actors that is working today. So I thought, you know what, in honor of a supposedly great villain that we haven't had in a couple of years, why not take a look at the top 10 best villains of the whole MCU, according to me. So I went through every movie, wrote down every single villain on a sheet of paper, and I went back and looked at them, and I looked at some of the names, I was like, I don't even know who you are. I watched you, I wrote you down, and I can't even remember who you are. Marvel does not have the best villains if we're comparing Marvel with DC. I love them both a lot, please don't at me, I'm not trying to start a war here. But there were 10 standout villains that I want to put on the ranking of my top 10 favorite villains of the whole MCU. This is my personal list. I guarantee no one else out there is going to have a lot of these people on this list. And actually, I'm omitting some villains that a lot of people would have towards the top of their villains list because I don't feel that they're really a villain at all anymore. Maybe they were, but now they're not. But this is my personal list. I'm welcoming everyone in the comments section to leave me your top 10 villains of the whole MCU. But how I frame my top 10 list here is I look at three different things. I look at the villain's plan, or the reasoning behind why they're doing what they're doing and what their mission is. So what are they trying to do? Number two, what is the impact of that mission? Does that affect the entire universe? Does that affect a city? Does that affect the entire world? What does it do? And finally, is the villain justified in their mission and what they are doing? Or are they just being a villain for villain's sake and it's a superhero movie and we need to have villain doing villainous things? If that's the case, then they are not on this list. In my opinion, the best villains in any superhero film, or any film in general, the villain is the hero of their own story. They believe that what they are doing, even though it's different from my moral compass, they believe what they are doing is the right thing according to their moral compass. So that's the framework that I'm working with here. So let's get started. My ranking of the top 10 villains in the whole MCU. Starting off at number 10 is the villain of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Ego, the Living Planet. Played by Kurt Russell, and yeah, he's just that. He's a frickin' planet, for God's sakes. And his mission is to make the universe perfect, to make the universe better, to make the universe really just all him. Him being the only soul, the only object in the entire universe. What is the impact? Well, it's the whole frickin' universe. Does he succeed? No, he doesn't, of course, but that's the plan, and that's the impact of the whole plan. He will go out and impregnate all of these different species from all these different planets to help find the offspring that will allow him the extra power and the extra boost to spread his seed all throughout the universe. And is he justified? He definitely feels that he is. He is a narcissist. He believes that he is the end-all be-all, and all other living organisms just pale in comparison to his greatness. That's why his name is Ego. He has a massive ego. But it also comes from a place of loneliness, where he feels that he is the only worthy living being in this entire universe and in this galaxy. And again, that can make someone feel very lonely and justified in their actions in trying to purify the entire universe. So that's why Ego is here at number 10. At number 9, I think, is one of the coolest villains in the whole MCU because it's played by one of the coolest actors living today, played by Michael Keaton. It's Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, from Spider-Man: Homecoming. His mission is to steal a lot of alien weaponry so that they can make different weapons and sell them on the black market. So the impact is very, very small. Potentially big and world-changing, but right now it's kind of just a small operation. It's a black market operation, so not a lot of people are affected by it. That's why it's at number 9. But the justification of why he's doing what he's doing makes him one of the best villains in the whole MCU, because he's doing it to support his family. He's not doing it to prove a point. He's not sending a message to anyone. He was a construction worker, and he had sites that he was working on, especially after the Battle of New York, and a bunch of these suits and corporate people came in and took it away from him, and he couldn't support his family. So what he does is all in support for his family. Everything that he does, he gives to his family. And that's one of the best reasons to do anything. It's to support a loved one. Of course, he gets caught, and his loved ones suffer even more, but still, it's worth it. At number 8 is one of my personal favorites and one of the most recent villains in the MCU from Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. We have Wenwu, known as the Mandarin over here in the States. God, the US is really racist. But he is the owner of the 10 rings, and he has used them over centuries, conquering all of these different empires and really becoming like the end-all be-all emperor. So the impact of his evilish doings is pretty grand in scope. But for the film purposes, the reason why he does the evil things and goes out and kidnaps his children and kills a bunch of people, it's really because he wants to find the love of his life again and thinks he can bring her back. Which, as I said previously with the Vulture, is one of the best reasons to make yourself feel justified in every choice that you make. It's because you love someone. I'm killing you because it's bringing you a step closer to me freeing my loved one from the Great Barrier or the Great Wall or whatever. Now, the impact of that, if he does break the wall, it's going to bring forth the big dragon demon thing that's going to destroy the realm and then come to Earth and destroy the Earth. So that's pretty impactful. But I really enjoy this character as a villain because he has so much hatred towards his son, but he also has a strong sense of responsibility because now his wife is dead. He blames his son for her death, but it's his responsibility to take care of him. So yes, he is there and he loves him, but he also hates him because he blames him for the death of his wife. He's a very complex character. He's a complex villain, and I love him here. At number 7, and this one's probably going to be the most controversial one because I don't think that this villain was well received by the masses, and actually this film wasn't well received by a lot of people, but I really enjoyed it. This is Dreykov from Black Widow, and I'm not selecting Taskmaster from the movie. Yes, Taskmaster is a flashier villain. She does all the cool action stuff and does all the fights. But Dreykov is the actual son of a bitch of the movie. What is he doing? Well, basically he's doing business transactions. He's a trafficker. He's a trafficker of women. What's the impact? Well, he kidnaps and sells any woman, young little girl that he can get his hands on to make a profit. And does he feel justified? Well, I think he does feel justified in the whole transaction because it's a business transaction. The whole selling of women is just business to him. It's not to prove anything. It's not to send a message to anything. It's just business as usual. And this villain is really the most realistic villain, I think, out of all of the villains in the MCU, which makes him in the top 10 for me. When he's talking to Natasha and delivering his master evil plan, as all great villains do, he talks about how the greatest resource on this planet is women. And hearing the word woman used in the sense of it being a resource as opposed to a woman being a person, it makes my skin crawl. It's one of the most disgusting things I have ever heard, but I also know that a lot of men and a lot of terrible men in this world feel this same way. There are a lot of villains in this world like Dreykov. There are a lot of Dreykovs in this world, sadly. So to bring a realistic creep perv of a person on screen and into the MCU, I think it's very smart of the screenwriters to do, and I really appreciate him as the villain of the story. What he's doing, it's sick, it's sadistic, that's why he's in my top 10. At number 6 is a character that I've been saying from the very beginning is one of the best villains in the whole MCU. For a while there, she was very depowered. The writers of the MCU were not writing her as powerful as what she actually is, up until this year when we saw her in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is the Scarlet Witch. And I say Scarlet Witch, not Wanda Maximoff. Wanda, we can make a claim that no, Wanda's the villain, she's the innocent one. It's the Scarlet Witch. When the Scarlet Witch kicks in, she is one of the most evil people in the whole MCU. She will kill everyone, or hold hostage everyone, who stands in her way so that she is able to see her family again. That's why she does what she does. She wants to see her boys. She wants to have a family. She had a family in WandaVision, and it was ripped away from her, and her brain is not comprehending that all of that stuff that she had in WandaVision is fake. It's not real. Doesn't matter to her. It was real to her. So she will go out everywhere to find real life versions of those people to make those boys her kids. She is powerful, and she definitely feels justified in what she's doing because everyone keeps telling her that she's crazy or that she's not thinking straight. They're telling her that what she experienced was not real, but she doesn't care. She feels justified in that I want to have my children. I had children. They're gone. I want them back. You stand in my way, I will blow up your brain, I will split you in half, I will crush you with little tiny rocks. If the wasp was flying around her face, she would squish her head, squish her head, squish her head. I've been saying since day one that Scarlet Witch is the most powerful character in the MCU. Doctor Strange 2 definitely proved that, and it proves she's one of the best villains in the MCU. At number 5 is one of the most confusing villains in the whole MCU because I watch her on screen and I go, oh my god, you would definitely kill me. But you are so attractive and so seductive and so beautiful, but you're about to kill me. I don't know. This is Hela from Thor Ragnarok. She wants to go out and conquer all the realms because that's what the whole mission was back when she was the official firstborn of Odin, and Odin was so war hungry. That's what they were doing. They were going out and conquering. And when you go out and conquer and become the overall ruler of everything, then you're awesome. So what's the impact of what she wants to do? Well, it's really to any realm that she can find, basically. And is she justified in wanting to do that? I would say so, because yeah, it sucks when you're going along and you're carrying out the plan and you are being hailed by your boss about doing a great job, but then all of a sudden your boss says, you know what, I want to change tactics and I don't want to be a war criminal anymore. I want to promote love and have peace. And because you were doing all of my warish biddings, I'm going to bury you and going to cover you up. And everyone's going to forget about you because I don't want people to think that I'm a bad person. Yeah, if I was Hela, I would be pissed off too. That sucks when you're pushed aside or someone is trying to erase you from history. If anything, I want you to be empowered and come back and say, no, I have a place in history. Let's not forget, here is the truth of what actually happened. Plus, she wipes out the entire Asgardian army by herself. She's up to that point, in Thor Ragnarok, probably the person that has killed the most in the whole MCU. And she's great. That's why she's here at number 5. At number 4 is someone that had a very rough upbringing, but through maneuvering and tricks and trades and dirty deals, finally making it to the kingdom that was owed to him, or at least a chance to come in and conquer. This is Killmonger from Black Panther. First off, Michael B. Jordan is just awesome, that's why he's at number 4. But when he becomes King of Wakanda, he wants to send out all the weaponry and all the technology that Wakanda has been hindering and sheltering and keeping a secret from the world. He wants to send it out to all of his black brothers and sisters all throughout the world who have been enslaved by different governments and different cultures to help them rise up and take power for themselves. And is he justified in doing that? I mean, you're getting no argument for me. If you watch Black Panther, you can watch it from the perspective of Killmonger and say, you know, T'Challa and all the King's previous Black Panthers before him, they're really the enemy here because they have all of this technology. They have all of these supplies that could help starving communities and people who are being enslaved everywhere. They could help, but they choose not to because they want to protect themselves. To any normal person, I would consider that selfish. So for Killmonger to come in and fight his way in, he was a kid in the slums of New York, having his father killed right before his eyes at a very young age, had to maneuver and figure out where Wakanda was, how to get in, who to make friends with, to get certain things, to get him audiences with certain people, to get him to Wakanda, and then to finally best T'Challa in the whole duel at the end. I mean, he's a great villain, and one of the most justified in the whole MCU. Number 3 is the villain from my favorite MCU film, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. No, it's not the Winter Soldier, he was only the villain for that film, and then he became a heartthrob nice guy in all the other movies. I'm talking about Alexander Pierce, who is the main representative of Hydra in this movie. Their mission is to infiltrate every level of government in every country around the world and slowly trick people into giving up their freedoms, in thinking that them giving up their freedoms is what's making them free. And the impact of that, well, it's definitely global, and anyone who stands against Hydra, anyone that stands against them, or calculated in that they may take up arms or resist the new rule, they're all going to be wiped out. Are they justified? It's a pretty evil idea to come up with, but it's what's happening now. This is happening today with social media, with Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat. You are allowing all of these major companies to have access to yourself, to your personal records, to all of your information, so that they sell it to different marketers and advertisers to try to get your money or try to get your information. Plus the reveal that Hydra had infiltrated every form of government in that movie has had a lasting effect on the whole MCU. It was jarring then, it's still jarring now, and it's happening in real life today. Plus, you get Robert Redford in this role. I mean, it's Robert Redford, one of the most legendary, iconic actors in the history of movies, and here he is in a Marvel film. Yeah, he's got to make it towards the top of this list. At number 2 is probably the reason why I held off doing this whole ranking video, because I wanted him to finally be a part, officially, of the MCU. And last year with his appearance in the Disney Plus show Hawkeye, he finally is. This is Kingpin, played by Vincent D'Onofrio from Daredevil on Netflix. He is at number 2. He is one of my favorite villains. His mission is to control all crime, all levels of crime, all forms of crime in New York City, and then probably once he does that, it'll branch out to other states and other cities, of course. But for right now, the impact is pretty small, but he wants to control all crime, and really when it comes to the judicial system or the operation of a city, crime is probably a necessary part. Crime is going to happen. There is no stopping it. Batman has been fighting crime for almost 100 years, and he's made no progress. So if crime is an inevitability in a city, then he wants to be at the head of that, to control all the crime so that chaotic crime or chaos crime doesn't happen. And to maintain that, he will make any deal. He demands loyalty. He demands respect. If anyone is an annoyance to him, he will take you out, and he will take out your family. He will torture your loved ones. He doesn't care as long as he fulfills his main goal. Vincent D'Onofrio's performance is fantastic. You see his backstory of where this kid comes from and why he thinks, how he thinks, and why he thinks. And he's a great villain. He's one of my personal favorites. I wish I could put him at number 1, but I can't. Number 2 is great, though. Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin, one of the best villains. But at number 1, I mean, I have to put him here because he wiped out half of the entire universe. And that's a lot to a lot of people. That's a very villainous thing to do. This is Thanos from Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, and all like cameos through all the other MCU films that he's in. His mission is to gain all of the Infinity Stones so that he has the power to wipe out half of life throughout the entire universe, because resources in this universe are finite, and the more rapidly we keep increasing and populate and overpopulate, resources become thin, and everyone's going to eventually die because of it. It's a pretty cynical and bleak way to look at life, but the best thing about Thanos is that a lot of people who suffered through the 5 years of the blip and having half the world and half the universe erased, a lot of people believe him and think he is justified. In the Disney Plus show Hawkeye, you see graffiti of people writing on bathroom stalls, "Thanos was right." I mean, yeah, he makes a lot of sense. And when he does wipe out half the universe, you know, there's a lot of good things that were happening in those 5 years. Steve Rogers says he saw whales in the Hudson for the first time in decades. But then our heroes have to come in and do time travel and erase and undo it, which is frickin' bullshit for Thanos. But he's the villain that was being built up since the first Avengers film over 2 phases, and we finally got him, and he didn't disappoint. He was badass, he was kicking everyone's ass, he was taking names, and no one could stand toe-to-toe with him. He is, by far, the the best villain that the MCU has had. And that is my list of the top 10 villains from the MCU. Hopefully Gore the God Killer may make his way onto that list after I see Thor Love and Thunder. What did you think of my list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What is your list of the top 10 Marvel villains for your viewing of the MCU? Whatever you thought, comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies and movie characters, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.